my friends, Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop with another little bit of something different. I do really consider many of you to be my friends. Even though we've never met, I get the same comment from you guys. You guys say you feel like you know me. Well, I feel like I know many of you as well based on your comments and things over the years. And a great number of you who I would consider close friends would tell me not to make this video that you're about to watch. And I would ignore your advice and make it anyway. Because sometimes you just need to set the record straight. And that's what we're about to do here. If you made a really stupid comment on my videos, I'd probably ignore it. I do ignore most of them. I sometimes will make a comment back. If you make a really derogatory comment toward me, I will often ignore it. Sometimes I will comment back. But if you make a really stupid derogatory comment toward me, you will feel my wrath. Period. So, what does that mean? Well, Abraham Lincoln said it best, and that is, it is better to remain silent and be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Every human on the planet ought to know that quote and ought to take it to heart, especially this moron that we're about to talk about. Caleb just walked in and he thought the world was crashing down around us. Based on my comments here. Okay, so what is this terrible comment that this moron made? Well, I'll read it to you. Okay, many of you would have read this comment and not even given it a second thought. Not so much with me. Here's the comment. Not so good for the destroyed woodlands. I suspect that there's very little replanting going on. Okay, fine. You know, like Abraham said, perhaps you ought to get your facts and know something before you open your big fat mouth. My guess is that as he was making that comment in his mom's basement waiting for supper, he probably has never planted a tree in his life to offset his carbon footprint. You know, now he might have, get a tree for your mom's birthday or something like that. He might have done that once in his life. Okay, I'll give him one tree. I, on the other hand, and I think I can safely say this without any exaggeration at all, have probably real close to have planted around 500 trees. And that's just a rough estimate, give or take 100, okay? Maybe it's 400, maybe it's 600. But I'm just going to say right around 500 trees. Now, why would I have planted that many? Well, for many years in a row, I ordered 100 saplings from the conservation, and I planted them. Some of those 100 got planted here on this farm. Many of those hundreds got planted on other farms. So, I've probably beat him in that regard already. I doubt seriously he's planted 500 trees. That's my guess. Now, sure, I've cut down a lot of trees in my life, and could be I've cut down 500 trees. I wouldn't deny that. But at least I'm kind of even on the score, at least that. But that's not the whole story. There's way more to this, and we need to dig in a little bit deeper. Okay, so how do we dig in a little deeper? What are some more of the facts? Well, the facts are, I've got over 200 acres of solid woods here. I bought it over 20 years ago. Now, I don't think there's a single person out there, even the meanest, orneriest skeptic of you out there, that would come here and look at this place and go, oh, you've destroyed it. In fact, I think you'd say, wow, this place looks great. You've improved the habitat, you've done this and you've done that, And I have. I've worked hard at it. Yeah, we had the place logged just about a year and a half ago. And all the firewood that I'm cutting presently and for the last year and a half has been treetops from those logs. Let's go to a short video here where I'm cutting some firewood, and this will help explain some more of it, and then we'll talk some more. Here's the wood I just finished cutting. You can see way back over there, there's a big pile of wood over there, plus all of this wood. Notice the little birds flying around on it here. Actually, I don't know if you can see him. There he is. They're eating the insects and things that and they almost become totally tame. But you can see, this was only a tank and a half of gas, and a chainsaw tank is pretty small. So that's a lot of wood for a little bit of gas. You can see the big log over here laying down. That's pretty much hollow. I would have rather that one stayed standing. This has all been logged a year and a half ago. So everything I cut up is dead and dying stuff on the ground. I'm not cutting any live trees. That woods has been logged. You don't see many big trees in there left. It's mostly small trees, but it doesn't look like a barren forest. I just want to point this out to people who think when you log something, it's just bare ground. In addition, every time you cut down a tree, at least 8 or 10 trees, as you can see, sprout up in their place. There is no real need for replanting in a forest like this. It replants itself, and faster than you even care to talk about. I'm on the edge of a clearing here. This clearing is actually what we call the Indian field. And that's because the Indians camped here for thousands, and I literally mean thousands of years. I've got evidence of them being here as much as 8,000 years ago in this very spot, all the way up to about 1,200 years ago. I find no pottery, so that indicates that they left before they started making pottery. So anyway, this is a neat spot, but I just wanted to show you, for the folks who, talk ecology and think they know everything. In fact, you know very little. Unless you actually get out of your chair and come out and look at a place like this, you almost know nothing about what you speak. These trees that stay down in the woods provide shelter for the little birds, for the little rabbits and squirrels and chipmunks. They allow shelter for them to escape the hawks and the other predators. So there is nothing but good coming from cutting down mature trees. And just for the record, this big log that's laying there is a big old walnut tree. And unfortunately, it was hollow, and therefore it was almost worthless. It would have been better to leave it standing because it makes homes for other animals. And, I know that, they know that, and they leave them if they know they're hollow, but they didn't know this one was hollow. And I just wanted to point out that most of the logs that were cut on this farm, and I've got 200 acres of woods, as you can see around. Every bit that you can see is mine. 200 acres of woods. And you can go out there anywhere, and you can't tell that the loggers were there, other than you'll see treetops down. Otherwise, the forest is very thick. And I just wanted to say, those of you who are still skeptical, we all need pallets. If you don't know what a pallet is, it's made out of oak, and these are 90% of what was cut here was oak. And it goes to pallet mills, and they make pallets for shipping goods. If you don't think you need pallets, let me just say it this way, and it's as blunt and as clear as I can say it, then I would stop ordering things online. And the reason I say that is because at least half of what you order comes in on pallets. At least half, if not 3/4. So pallets are very necessary, and it's places like this that provide those pallets for you. So my suggestion is stop talking the show and start walking the show. Okay, well, you just watched that video, and I stand by everything I said. There's a little bit more to it that I'd like to add, and that is those giant trees that are out there in the woods, cutting them down helps the ecology in many ways, and it helps the world in many ways. And you don't think about these ways because all you ever hear is the activists talking about cutting down the trees. Now, granted, I'm not for cutting down the rainforests and just plowing everything down to bare ground. That's not what I'm talking about. But here in this part of the country, when you cut down one giant tree, it opens up the forest floor. And weeds, bushes, all kinds of small little plants and trees that don't get very big. They have room to grow finally. And it is a just absolute feeding frenzy for all the little critters. The deer come through there, the turkey come through there, even the wild hogs come through there, and they'll find stuff, they'll root up the grubs and things in those areas. It's just amazing. You can just go out there and see it happen. So that's one thing. But on the other side of it, if you don't cut down those big trees, when you have a fire, it becomes even a bigger wildfire when you've got those giant trees, because the fires can spread across the canopy, and it just makes the fire much more intense, much hotter. We also do a lot of controlled burns here on the farm to try to mitigate a lot of that, to get ahead of it. But anyway, the point is that there's a lot more good than just negative. Sure, there's negatives, but there's just as much good as, and the conservation department in Missouri is one of the best conservation departments in the whole country. And they recommend cutting the trees and taking out the mature trees as well. So I stand by everything I said in that video. I stand by what I just told you. My thought is that you need to understand what you're talking about when you get on your high horse and you start putting other folks down for doing what they're doing. Now, granted, it won't be long that I won't be able to cut firewood here. The arthritis is getting to me, and I'll have to move to an all-electric house that I have here on the place. And I could do that now, but then I wouldn't be getting the physical activity. And I think I need that physical activity. As hard as it is, I kind of need it to keep me moving. But when I finally give that up, well, then I'll be in that all-electric house. Now, that doesn't mean that the footprint just went away, No, in fact, I still have just as big a footprint in that electric house. And so do you in your house. However you heat it, you have a footprint. And, one is not necessarily better than the other. There is a footprint. I've done my part the best I can do to cover up my footprint. I'm not saying I've got there. Nobody really gets there. Even Bill Gates, who said he's got one of the biggest carbon footprints in the world, he pours millions into research and things to try to cover up his own footprint. Nobody's going to get there. It's just all on different scales and different levels. But as Abraham Lincoln said, you really ought to just remain silent and be thought of as a fool rather than open your mouth and remove all doubt. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.